Right. Welcome, everybody. I'm Emily Morgan. I'm the president and founder of Delegate Solutions. And joining me today is one of our long-term clients, Lindsey Pollak. Welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Lindsey is a New York Times best-selling author, keynote speaker, and one of the world's leading experts on millennials and the multi-generational workplace. She was named one of the 2020 Thinkers50 Radar List, which honors 30 global management thinkers whose work is shaping the future of how organizations are managed and led. She has some books out and she has some career advice books out and has spoken for more than 250 corporations, law firms, conferences, universities. Her advice and opinions have appeared on the Today Show, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and NPR. She is a graduate of Yale University. So welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you.
So today we are going to talk a little bit about why you came to Delegate, what you were looking for, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your topic around the multi-generational workplace and navigating a career during these crazy times. So we just fact-checked, and you've been a client with us for 5 years, and you and I actually met many, many years ago, randomly in New York on Maggie Mistel's Martha Stewart Sirius channel. We did a radio show together. So we've been working together for 5 years. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were looking for when you came to Delegate?
Sure. Thank you again for having me and everyone for watching. I always think about that interview together. That was so many years ago. And I remember meeting you and thinking, oh, that's so interesting, a virtual business, but somehow these things stick in the back of your head. And one of my pieces of advice to people is just keep building your contacts and follow your interests, because somehow I had that in a file somewhere in the back of my mind. And I read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, very early in my business. And he is a big proponent of virtual assistants. He used some outside of the US. And it sort of clicked with me. Oh, I met that woman on Maggie Mistel's show, Emily Morgan, and I kind of looked you up. I tried some of the international options because that was what was in Tim Ferriss's book. And then I very quickly remembered you. And lo and behold, I was working at a co-working space in New York.
That's right.
And I met a guy there who was a consultant. And he said, oh my gosh, I use this amazing service, Delegate Solutions. And it was like, oh my gosh, serendipity, karma. I met her a million years ago on that show. And everything clicked. And I really believe in that. When the alignment is right, the timing is right, you have these synergistic moments. So that was just a huge sign. I called you, we set it up, and you matched me with Eileen, my assistant, who is phenomenal. And I think what I was looking for was, number one, just administrative support, obviously, kind of, I would call it getting control over my calendar. I had so many calls. I didn't have a regular schedule. I was using all different technology solutions. Bringing Eileen on forced me to get clear on how I wanted to spend my time. And she really encouraged me to put blocks around that. And I think it also elevated my business to clients to say that I had somebody else on my team. So it was partly kind of managing me and then also projecting that professionalism to my clients. And I think as much as we've evolved and changed over the years, that's really the core of it, is focusing me on what I want to do and making sure that there's someone representing me to clients who I know and trust and kind of has that big picture in mind.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I can imagine with all the speaking gigs and getting the books written and things like that, like having someone to really help you structure your week would have been important. Can you share maybe a story or two about how we've been able to help you?
So what was really important to me at the beginning, and why Eileen and Delegate were such a good fit, is that my business is me. And so bringing somebody on, they had to really align with that and really be an extension of me with my clients. And one of the things that makes me so thrilled and proud, and it's kind of an intangible, but I know a lot of work goes to it, is nothing makes me happier. And this happens all the time when I go to a speaking gig, which is my core business, and somebody says, it's such a pleasure to work with your team. Aww. Everything ran smoothly. Everything was buttoned up and on time and exactly when I needed it. And that is 100% Eileen. So to know that the impression I'm giving in-person me to clients is matched by my assistant, Eileen. And by the way, there are secret little Eileens behind her sometimes when she's out. We have now Rebecca on my team. The fact that that's so aligned, I had worked with other assistants who were not part of a service. And what I love about Delegate, I know I sound like a commercial, is that when someone takes over, because people get sick or they go on vacation, it's all totally aligned to the brand. And when I hear that from clients, it's absolutely the biggest win. So I think it's those intangibles of alignment with who I am that is probably the biggest value that Eileen brings to the table.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, what we do is built for entrepreneurs, and sort of the pains that you're speaking to are really why we have the teamed approach, why we have backup. Entrepreneurs in general are so, can get so reliant on the assistant that it's terrifying if they leave or you've delegated and trust gets broken. So it's really important to us that we have that team behind you so that you're never left without support. So great examples.
Yes. I would also say that it's just a thought partner too. So when I'm struggling, if I can't think through something, Eileen and I will jump on the phone, and I know you teach this at Delegate, she has a real process driven mind. So she'll say, where's the problem? What are you struggling with? How can we solve it? It's very hard as an entrepreneur to have that all in my head, and I'm only as smart as what I know. Right. To have someone to bounce that off of who has other clients who might have similar struggles has also been incredibly valuable. Like our CRM Pipedrive, Eileen is really good at helping me think through the technology serving me as opposed to me having to figure out the technology.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, those are both great examples. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about your work and all the things that you're doing. When I first met you, you were focused on millennials, and now we're really moved into this multi-generational workforce, which is super cool. And everybody's now dealing with the challenges of work and COVID. So I guess, where are you at? What are you working on around helping people navigate their career during these times?
So as an entrepreneur, I think it's so important to be able to pivot and also having multiple streams of revenue and not being entirely in one lane, as I might call it. I'm certainly driven as a speaker. That's my primary business, but I've always had some coaching clients, obviously my books and income from writing. I've developed an e-course and done some consulting with brands. So I'm really glad that I had those different streams, because speaking really disappeared overnight, which was very frightening. Yeah. I also think long-term relationships have been really critical, that people who did call me for speaking trusted me and knew me over a very long period of time, that I could pivot from in-person to online. Your team at Delegate pivoted really quickly to say, what do you need? How do we need to change? So I think it's number one, being able to really adapt to the times and be agile and frankly hustle a lot to figure out where the opportunities are in the marketplace when things change. I think it was also a little bit of patience. March 2020 was terrifying, and April things started to pick back up. So I think it was kind of riding that out and staying focused on what needed to be done. I did take the time to write a proposal for a new book about adapting to these changing times. The title is going to be Recalculating, just like on your GPS. Right. Navigating changing career times. So I did want to find the opportunity and ways to help people in this, very challenging time. And I don't think I would have had time or even the thought to write a new book so quickly after the other one if it hadn't been for COVID. And from the multi-generational perspective, I think people are dealing with different kinds of challenges right now. And the new book will address that. If you're just starting out, it can be really hard to launch your career in a time of high unemployment and you've never been through something like this. For older professionals who might have more resilience and experience dealing with a downturn, sometimes they feel they're facing ageism, right? And not getting opportunities because they're more advanced in their careers. So it's really hitting people from all sides. Obviously, the racial justice issues in our country disproportionately affecting Black Americans from an unemployment and COVID perspective. So I think taking a step back and looking at the big picture, and really as an entrepreneur, I've really thought about how can I help? What can I offer that would have true value at this time has been kind of my North Star, but it hasn't been easy. I have a lot of empathy for anyone who's in business for yourself. It can be really challenging and feel very isolating. So having an assistant has helped because it's someone to talk to and someone on the team.
Totally. Yeah, I know for us, and you kind of watched us go through this, we are a remote company. You are as well. And really the way that we were most impacted was having kids home. So our team
Yeah.
is like mostly mothers or, in that sort of lane. And so the way that we kind of stepped up to help was to put together this virtual kids camp that we ran for a couple months, just to give the kids some sort of interaction so our team could work. So I totally feel you on, like, the past couple months have been so challenging, for everybody in different ways. So do you think that now's a good time to start a business or go back to school or ask for a raise? Like, where are you at with that?
I think all of the above. I think nothing is off the table if you're strategic and smart. Personally, I started my business in 2002. I had been laid off from a .com job in 2001, right before 9/11. And it was a very, very challenging, sensitive time to look for a job. And I didn't find one. And I ended up job hunting and starting my business at the same time. I didn't really mean to start a business that would take off. And so I think that I did both at the same time. And that's what I really recommend to people. You don't have to choose. You can apply for jobs and launch your own venture. You can consult, partner with other people, and volunteer and apply for jobs. In terms of asking for a raise, it really depends on the situation of your company. There's no one right answer for people. But if you're working for a company that is doing well right now, and plenty are, and you feel that you've earned it and you can make an argument for why you're offering that value, I don't see why COVID would be a reason not to do that. But you really do have to be sensitive. I know that, with speaking business down, it would not be appropriate for someone to ask for a raise. If you work in the food service or logistics industry, it might be totally appropriate. So I think about all your options. Don't force yourself into a choice of black and white. I think it's really about finding the gray areas right now and keeping as many options open as possible, because nobody knows where we're going to be in a month or 6 months or a year. So there's no reason to force yourself into a decision if you don't have to.
Totally. I know when I started my business, I had just had my son. My husband at the time was laid off. I was working. I went back to a job. So I was working and starting the business. So I think that, that's the story for a lot of people. You're just figuring it out and hustling, and you have an idea, people are interested in it, and you're figuring it out, and you do what you have to do. So let's talk a little bit about remote work, because you and I both live in this space. So what are your kind of tips for managing a remote team that's worked for you?
So I should say that Eileen and I have never met in 5 years, which always blows people's minds because we work together so closely. And I really didn't even think about it for the longest time. And people say hi to Eileen back at the office. And I always have to say, actually, we've never met. So I think a lot depends on comfort level with each other, honesty, trust. I trust Eileen implicitly, and that doesn't always happen. I'd worked with other virtual assistants where it wasn't as successful because I think that trust factor wasn't there. So I think as often as you can talk on the phone, do video calls, and really build that genuine relationship. We don't always talk about work. We talk about our kids. We talk about real estate. We talk about vacations. I think that really helps to the level that you're comfortable. My friend Jamie Klein says, break bread together, right? If you can't actually meet for a meal, just talk casually or text or send each other gifts. I follow Eileen on Instagram, and she follows me. So we see those little elements of our lives, which I think is really important. And I will say that the danger I found with remote teams is that you can get very email heavy.
Yeah.
And sometimes on email, things get lost and tone gets misinterpreted. And I will say, whenever there has been any issue, and we've never had a bad one, but I find this with all members of my team, with vendors and with my assistant, getting on the phone to talk it through is always the right decision. We get in trouble when we're too reliant on email. And, there's so many levels to communication, but that's the basic, which is don't hesitate to get on the phone.
Totally. Yeah. We, especially I think for introverts, or, you just get used to working and over email or over Slack, that it can feel more burdensome to give somebody a call, but usually that's faster and more effective for sure.
Always. Yeah, for sure.
So let's close up. Thank you. What are you working on right now that we should know about?
So I'm very excited about my new book, Recalculating. If anyone has a story of how you have recalculated in your career or pivoted, from one career or to another and back again, or started a business. I'm really eager to collect those stories because I think the more we hear about what other people have done, the more we know it's possible. When we see it, we believe it. So I'm writing my book. I'm also on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, just wanting to connect and hear what's happening with other people. We are very isolated right now, so I think connection is really important. And I love to connect with any other entrepreneurs. And I'm just so grateful to you, Emily and Delegate. Long-time relationships are really special and powerful. And I'm just so grateful for everything you've brought to my business from a very long time ago to now. I can't believe how long it's been.
I know. It's wild. Very cool. Thank you so much. That was really sweet. Thank you for sharing that. So people, if they want to find you, they go to where?
So my name is really hard to spell, but everything is with my name. So I will spell it for you, lindseypollak.com. I'm on social media at Lindsey Pollak, and it's LINDSEYPOLLAK. My most recent book is The Remix, and I host a podcast called The Work Remix.
Cool. Look forward to hearing that. Well, thank you again for joining us. It was great to see you, and wish you all the best with the new book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.